Good day to all. I am Ruchika Ardhanki Ganeshekar, pursuing my master's in computer science from Texas A&M University Commerce. This video is regarding my project, Operating Systems for Smartwatch. So, I will be explaining about what is a smartwatch, its history, its purpose, its features, brief of the block diagram, its pros and cons, and various operating systems used in the smartwatch and the companies currently manufacturing it. So, now let us begin with what is a smartwatch. It is a computing device that can be worn on your wrist like a regular watch. It differs from a wristwatch as in that it does more than like it can connect to your phone via Bluetooth to use your phone's function to answer calls, listen to music, view text and emails, and control digital assistants, allows us to use touchscreen, offer the apps, and often record our heart rate, pulse, and our vital signs. Now let's discuss about the history of our smartwatch. So it was first developed in 1972 by Hamilton Watch Company, an electro digital watch, an LED prototype called the Pulsar wrapped in 18K gold. And in the early stages, innovations were by the Seiko, which was a famous T001, and it can be seen in the James Bond's Octopus movie. Later, in 1994, the first wireless smartwatch, the Timex Data Link, became the very first watch capable of downloading data from a computer wirelessly. Next, in 1998, the Linux smartwatch, designed by the pioneer inventor Steve Mann, was used to make a call. In 1999, Samsung was one of the very first companies to introduce smartwatches to the Android market. In 2000, IBM revealed a prototype which was a Linux smartwatch called the Watchpad. It ran Linux 2.2. In the early 2000s, the PDA smartwatch was released by the Fossil. Now, let's move to the goals and purpose of the smartwatch. Smartphones make our lives easier and more joy. The same goes for smartwatches. This digital camera is elegant and it has wide range of uses. One of them promotes our daily exercise routine, and the features and benefits of smartwatches encourage us to use them. You can do it just like you use your smartphone. It has an LED screen where you can watch videos, listen to music, and see the notifications and many more. Now, let's discuss some features of the smartwatch. It offers a smart navigation for easier journeys. It helps you find things. It tracks your fitness and monitors your health. It acts as a mini smartphone on your wrist. It lets you control your smart home. It works as a personal assistant. It can become a constant digital companion too. Now, let's see the block diagram of the simple smartwatch. So it has two ports where it has the wireless charger can be connected, and it has also the USB port. So this smartwatch is actually running on a lithium battery, and it has several sensors like temperature sensor, pulse sensor, and UV sensor, and all the contents will be visible in the LCD panel. And here you have also the Bluetooth where you can connect with the mobile phone and you can work wirelessly. So let's talk about several operating systems used in the smartwatch. For instance, Android OS is an open source firmware replacement for some Android Wear devices. Flame OS is a Android operating system by Meizu company. InfiTime is the default firmware for the PineTime smartwatch, which was produced by Pine64 company. It supports Android, desktop, Linux, and PinePhone. Harmony OS is an operating system developed by Hawaii intended for the various smart devices they manufacture. Sailfish OS is a Linux based operating system for various platforms, including Sailfish smartwatches. And Tizen OS is a project within the Linux Foundation and is governed by a technical group composed of Samsung and Intel company. WatchOS is a proprietary mobile operating system, which was developed by the Apple, which is the iOS. To run the Apple iOS, it was already the watchOS was being designed, and Wear OS was previously known as the Android Wear, which is a operating system developed by the Google. Now let's discuss about each and every OS in brief. The Google Wear OS is a wearable platform which is developed by Google, and it is used by many other companies also like Sony, Mobile, Fossil, Skagen, and Michael Kors. Wear OS is a slimmed down version of Android and therefore integrates very well with Android phones, although Google has been working to add more features for iPhone users in the recent updates. Wear OS allows you to make and receive phone calls from your Android phone, providing the watch as a speaker and a microphone. Or without your phone, if the watch has an LTE connectivity, it can also be used. It also allows you to respond to messages from your notifications. However, you can't scroll back through the previous messages. Now, the pros of this OS is that it integrates with both Android and iPhone and large selection of third-party apps availability it helps to access the Google's most popular apps like Maps, Assistant, and you can make and receive calls using your watch. The cons are they have a very poor battery life and you can't scroll back through the text. Next, we have the Apple WatchOS. This is an iOS based operating system. The platform is well designed with a sleek user interface that also uses a crown dial and touchscreen. Unlike most other platforms, WatchOS only work with an iPhone. It has the Apple's ecosystem built in, including the Apple Music, Apple Pay, iMessage. Similar to the Wear OS, WatchOS also has a huge number of third party apps that can be downloaded to the watch, including some exclusive apps such as American Airlines that lets you put a boarding card on your wrist. WatchOS has full support for making and receiving calls on your watch. This can be through your iPhone or via built in cellular connectivity on certain Apple Watches. The pros of the Apple Watch is that large selection of apps, third party, and Apple owns many apps like Apple Music, Siri, and Apple Health. You can make and receive calls via your iPhone, and you can reply to text, your iMessage you can use, and you can use your WhatsApp on your wrist. You can scribble, allows you to handwrite on the screen, and it turns around to text. You can make payments with Apple Pay. The cons are it only works with iPhone and known for having a poor battery life. Now let's talk about the Samsung's OS Tizen. Tizen is the operating system found by the Samsung smartwatch and in their smart TVs. It has an open source platform that has been jointly developed by Intel and Samsung, although no other manufacturers use it. It's very similar to Wear OS but more lightweight and without Google's ecosystem of apps. The interface on the Tizen tends to be tied to the rotating bezel that features on Samsung smartwatches, which makes it easy to scroll through apps and messages. The platform does support third party apps, however, there are relatively few available as most of the features use native Samsung apps. These can be hit or miss. For example, Samsung Health is a very strong app for monitoring your health and fitness, whereas Bixby is Samsung's voice assistant, which doesn't come close in functionality to Siri or Google Assistant. Now let's see about the pros of this watch. Interface allows the use of a rotating bezel, smooth scrolling, and makes contactless payments with Samsung, integrates with both Android and iPhone, make and receives calls via your watch, allows third-party apps, all the more limited selection, which is compared to Wear, all more limited selection when compared to more Wear OS and Watch OS. And the cons are the Big B voice assistant doesn't match up to other voice assistants, and it's known for having a poor battery life. Now let's look into the Garmin OS. A standout feature is Garmin Coach, which provides adaptive training plans. These have been developed in conjunction with professional coach but will be personalized based on your performance as measured by the watch sensors. When it comes to interacting with notifications, you can reply to messages. However, you're limited to quick responses, which can be preset on the Garmin Connect app on your phone. You cannot use the Garmin watch for making or receiving calls, even if your device has the right hardware. It does allow you to accept or decline calls. However, if you accept the call, you'll still need to use a smartphone for the actual call. So now let's look at the pros. It has a good battery life. It can make contactless payment and you can download music to your watch like the Amazon Music and the Spotify. You can allow third party app although which is limited selection available that are mainly fitness focused. And the cons are messaging is limited to quick responses and you cannot use the watch for the calls. Now let's look at the Fitbit OS. So it has been synonymous with fitness trackers for many years, and they have used this position to push into the smartwatch market with their Fitbit OS platform. Being a fitness focused platform, one key feature is the ability to download music for offline listening. Fitbit OS works in a slightly different way as you can need to sync tracks via the Fitbit Connect app. Services currently supported are Deezer, Pandora, MP3, or the Spotify is currently not integrated for offline listening. You'll have more than enough voice assistants as Fitbit OS is the only smartwatch platform to have both Alexa, Google Assistant built in. However, both assistants respond to you in text form rather than speaking back. Now let's look into some pros. It has good battery life, it makes contactless payments, it allows third party apps, although limited selection. And cons are it has some advanced reports require a Fitbit premium subscription and no offline listening for Spotify and cannot send messages via Fitbit OS when connected to an iPhone. Now let's look into the Hawaii's Light OS. So Light OS is a Linux-based smartwatch platform created by Hawaii and used in their own smartwatch. It is also used in Honor smartwatch, which was previously owned by Hawaii. The watch can be paired to both Android and iPhone with most features working for both platforms. However, media controls do seems to be more limited on iPhone. LightOS does not allow any third party apps to be installed, so you are limited to those that have been developed and pre installed by Hawaii. The lack of the third party apps makes music streaming very limited. You can play, pause, skip the music on Android, and that's it about. You cannot look through playlists or download music for offline listening via the streaming services. Although you can load MP3 onto the LightOS watch that have the internal storage. Now let's look into the pros. Works with the Android and iPhone, makes and receive calls with your watch, excellent health tracking via the Hawaii Health app. The cons are there are no third party apps, very limited for music streaming, and cannot respond to message with watch, and no voice assistant or a contactless payment. Now let's look into the Amazfit. Amazfit OS is relatively new to the smartwatch game, but their devices are causing a buzz thanks in part to their lightweight operating system that offers an excellent battery life. The platform was developed jointly with Hawaii. Many of the limitations of LightOS can be found on Amazfit's watch. Amazfit's platform does not allow you to install third party apps, so you won't be able to download music from streaming services. However, you do still have basic music controls if you're playing music via your smartphone. Now let's look into some of the pros. It has excellent battery life and does not require much processing power, so watches are very usually cheap. And the cons are it cannot make receive calls within the watch. It can only read messages, no way to respond back, and there is no voice assistant, and there is no contactless payment. Now, let's look into some of the general advantages of the smartwatch. So, it promotes a healthy lifestyle, like it helps to monitor heart rate, and blood pressure. These data can help you reach your fitness goals faster as give an overview of overall health. Also, newer smartwatches have lots of sensors that make fitness tracking easier. Some even have dedicated work notes such as walking, running, swimming, cycling, weightlifting, and so on. And next, we have the quick access to the notifications. Like it helps to receive email, notifications, calls, text, calendar alerts, new alerts, and so much more. You can even receive Facebook notifications and no need to take out your phone from a bag or a pocket. After reading the notification, you can decide whether to take further action or just ignore it. And next is the never miss a call. If you're the type of person who always on the go, missing a call can be a normal occurrence. When you're outside, you may not be able to hear your phone ringing. The vibration from a smartwatch is easily noticeable and can alert you that you have received a call or a text. Moreover, you can quickly decide whether to respond or not by just looking at the watch. Next advantage is a convenience. So, high-end smartwatches usually offer features that are truly convenient. Some have NFC that will allow you to make cashless payments. Others have LTE, which will enable you to send text and make calls. So, even if you don't have your smartphone nearby. Next is new watch faces every day. If you use a regular watch, it can get boring seeing the same dial every day. On the other hand, you can change the dial, that is the face of the smartwatch every day. Besides being stylish, it will allow you to match the watch face according to your mood and preference. Next is watching movies and listening to music. When it comes to entertainment, there's really no point of comparison between a smartwatch and an ordinary watch. You can watch a full length movie on a smartwatch without any problem. A smartwatch also allows you to connect earphones so you can listen to your favorite music anytime. Next is the fashion. Unlike fitness trackers, smartwatches are stylish and fashionable. The former is designed for sports activities while the latter can be worn on almost any occasion. You can wear a smartwatch at work, school, or a dinner date. Next, let's talk about the cons, which is the disadvantages of general smartwatch. The price. Smartwatch can be quite expensive. The more affordable ones are priced no less than $100, while the high-end models can cost up to $500. If you're on the tight budget, you may be buying a smartwatch which is really worth, or just better to stick to your smartphone. But if you belong to a rich and famous, you may want to check out the most expensive smartwatch money can buy. Next is the limited battery life. This is one of the main disadvantages of smartwatch. Typically, smartwatch can only be used 1 to 2 days after full charge. Some don't even last for 1 day, especially if you use a power hungry feature. Additionally, you won't be able to use some features like sleep tracking if your watch runs out of juice while you're sleeping. Your phone has to be close by is the next disadvantage. Unless your smartwatch has a cellular capability or can connect to a Wi-Fi network, you have to be within the Bluetooth range of your smartphone to use the apps. One limitation of Bluetooth technology is that the primary device has to be within 300 feet of the secondary device. Next disadvantage is the screen size. One not so nice thing about smartwatch is that everything is cluttered in a small space. When you want to use the apps, pressing the correct button may require extra effort, especially if you have a big finger. The next last disadvantage is it will never replace a smartphone. Smartwatches are always getting better in terms of performance, capabilities, and connectivity. However, it can perform all the function of a smartphone. Because of its small size, it will have an effect on the size of the display, how long the battery will last, and how powerful of the hardware can be fitted into a smartwatch. So these are some of the companies using the smartwatch. For example, we have the Awai, we have the Amazfit, we have the Oppo, we have the Boat, we have the Honor, we have the Apple Watch, Samsung, Timex, Curus, and many more. And this slide is regarding the price comparison of 10 best smartwatches, where Apple stands the first with the highest demand, and the average cost of an Apple Watch would be $349. And second would be the Fitbit, which gets a sale more with a $152. And in the queue stands the Samsung, again, which would be the Apple, Fitbit, Garmin, Google, and again there would be the Samsung. And these are some references from which I have piled up all the information that's present in the presentation. Thank you so much.